Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. My name's Stephanie and today we are going out of this world with ILNP's new Cosmos collection. So this is actually ILNP's first fall collection of the season and it is space themed. There are 6 shades in an assortment of finishes from multichromes and shimmers and some more magnetics. And I definitely have some thoughts, so I will save them for the end after comparisons. For now, let's just get into the swatches. The first shade we have is Orbit, and this is described as a silver to red ultra chrome. So hopefully you could see the red peeking in the sides of the bottle, but just wait until the end of the swatch clip because it's insane. So since this is a multichrome formula, this one is a little bit sheer on that first coat, so you definitely are going to want to build it up to be fully opaque, but it does have pretty even coverage. I ended up only needing 2 coats to get this one fully opaque, probably because it does have a slightly black tinted base. But yeah, going back to the chrome finish of this one, as you can see right away, this has kind of a bluish shimmer towards the left side of my nail, and then it turns into like a greenish gray on the right side. And I was honestly kind of impressed with how prominent this multi-chrome finish was. This is actually my first time trying one of ILNP's ultra chrome formulas. I know that might sound crazy, but I'm just not the biggest fan of multi-chromes. But yeah, so here it is with the adjusted lighting, so you can see the shift to red, and I just thought it was so cool seeing all of the colors. So my bestie had the genius idea of swatching these shades over black since they are a little bit sheer. So I am going to be using ILNP's ink, which came out in the arcade collection earlier in the summer. So here is 1 coat of Orbit over ink and it looks amazing. I personally would probably just wear it this way because I feel like it looks virtually the same over a black base compared to the 2 coats on its own. If anything, I would say it looks better over the black just because you get full opacity that way. Next up we have Moondust, and this is a silver to aqua holographic shimmer. So even though there is holo in here, I personally would call this a little bit more of like a microflake formula personally. I feel like it was kind of the same thing as some of the shades from the Under the Sea collection, where these particles to me are just a little too big to be classified as a shimmer. I would call this more of a flaky, so I don't know. Semantics, I guess. But yeah, on 1 coat, this one had pretty good coverage. It has a kind of gunmetal tinted jelly base color, and again, it's filled with these little shimmer or flaky particles. So you do end up getting pretty much full opacity in 2 coats. I think at least for me, it's opaque enough. You could do a 3rd coat if you don't like seeing any hint of your nail line. But yeah, here it is with the adjusted lighting so you can kind of see that blue shimmer. It is so pretty. I was loving this one a lot more than I thought that I would. And of course, here it is swatched over black just to show you how that looks. And it is just so cool. Definitely giving me gunmetal mixed with spacecraft kind of vibes. But yeah, obviously over black, it is gonna look a little bit different, a lot darker. But honestly, I think it's just as cool. Next we have my favorite from this collection. This is Shooting Star, and if it isn't obvious, this one is a magnetic polish. So this one has an icy blue magnetic shimmer suspended in a really gorgeous indigo jelly base, and there's also this beautiful iridescent flaky that kind of shifts from magenta and purple and blue, and I think there's also some dainty holo in there. There's a lot going on to this, but it is so pretty. Well, I mean, it might not look really pretty on the first coat because it's very sheer here, but once you start building it up to be fully opaque, it just looks so stunning. So I think on 2 coats, it definitely looks really nice. Maybe if you have shorter nails, you could get away with just 2 coats, but because my nails are slightly longer, I feel like you can kind of see through to my tips a little bit more here. So I did end up doing a 3rd coat for this shade. And again, it just looks so gorgeous once it is fully opaque, or at least opaque on 3 coats, because you get so much of that color payoff with that beautiful indigo base. It just provides the perfect contrast for those iridescent flakies, and of course that magnetic shimmer. It just looks like a galaxy on your nails. And of course, I'm going to be showing this with a velvet effect because it's just my preferred way of wearing magnetics. So I'm doing my little hack of holding my magnet to the side while I'm painting my coat, and then I move it to the other side to sort of shift that magnetic shimmer around. And yes, this coat was especially messy. I'm sorry about that, but there's nothing a little acetone and a cleanup brush can't fix. So here it is with the velvet effect, and I think it looks so good. There is just so much dimension. I love that icy blue shimmer in contrast to that more indigo navy base. And here it is with no effect, just to also show you how this applies straight out of the bottle. It's very flat looking. You can't even see the iridescent micro flakes in there. And lastly, here it is in 1 coat over ink, and oh my gosh, this was so freaking pretty. I know I always say when I wear magnetics, like, it looks like a galaxy on your nails, because it usually does, but this one especially is a literal galaxy, and I can't decide which way I like it more. Next up, we have Dark Matter, and this is a black to red multichrome base with a silver magnetic shimmer. So I know it looks pretty unassuming in the bottle at first, and maybe even familiar to a shade we already saw, but this is definitely a whole different formula, and it looks so good. So this one really impressed me with the formula on the first coat. It was a little bit more on the creamy or crelly side, so it was nearly opaque in the first coat alone. So good. But I ended up just needing 2 coats for this one, and yeah, maybe a little unassuming with just this effect because it just looks black with a silver magnetic shimmer going across it. You do get a hint of shimmer outside of the magnetic strip, but the main thing is once you see it in more indirect or extreme angles of light, that red really comes through, and I was not expecting that. So again, I'm going to be showing this on its own here on the left side, just straight out of the bottle, 2 coats, no magnetic effect whatsoever, and then on the right side we have the velvet effect. So you can see that they definitely look similar, but there is a little bit more dimension to the shimmer with the velvet effect. And lastly, here it is in 1 coat over black. This one I feel like wasn't really necessary considering the base color is already black pretty much. So yeah, here it is over ink and then on its own. I would say these two are virtually the same, so the black base isn't really necessary. The next polish we have is Comet, and this is an iridescent microflake formula with some hollow sparkle in a deep teal base. So this one definitely has more of a jelly formula. As you can see here on the first coat, it is very sheer, but still very even coverage. Not to the point that I would wear it on 1 coat, but it's not streaky, so you can definitely build it up on its own easily enough. So I really love the teal base color. It is just so pretty, and it again provides such a perfect base for that iridescent shimmer, because the predominant color that you see head on is like this fiery coppery orange, and in certain angles it shifts to yellow or green and pink. There's just a lot of colors going on in here, and it's just really pretty. So I found this one opaque enough for me on 2 coats because it was a pretty dark shade. You could do a third if you wanted to, but I ended up just skipping that and showing this over black, which wasn't really my favorite. I mean, not that it looks bad, it definitely gives me like kind of spooky vibes, which I'm loving, but you just don't get that gorgeous teal blue base. It just looks like you're wearing a topper over a black. And rounding out this collection, we have Deep Space, which is a black jelly base that has a green to blue to purple magnetic shift, as well as the silver micro holographic flecks. So this one was more of a jelly base. As you can see, it is really sheer and kind of streaky on the first coat, which I didn't love because I know ILNP has put out really opaque black magnetics before, like the Trapped collection last year. So I kind of was expecting that, but because it's a black base, it was basically opaque in 2 coats, so it didn't really make that much of a difference. And yeah, this is another one that kind of gives off galaxy vibes. It just has a really pretty green to blue shimmer that you see head on, but then once you kind of adjust the lighting, it shifts to purple and it looks so cool. I just love how those hollow flecks shine in the black too. So again, here it is on its own on the left side, and then with a velvet effect on the right. And again, you just get a lot more dimension between the shimmer and the base with the velvet effect, but you still get all of those gorgeous color shifts. So you can really wear this however you want, and it's still gonna sparkle so much. And lastly, here it is layered over ink, which might seem a little redundant because it's in a black jelly base to begin with, but if you're a little pressed for time, then you can just do 1 coat of the magnetic effect and you're good to go because it looks the same. And here is the collection lineup. So seeing them all side by side, you can definitely see some similarities among some of the polishes, like 1 and 3 and then 2 and 4. But as I have my little label here, 3, 4, and 6 are magnetic polishes. So they do have a lot more color shift and flakies going on in them. So getting into comparisons, we're starting with Orbit and looking at it next to Holo Taco's Double Dare because I actually don't own ILNP Eclipse, but I heard that's close enough to Double Dare, so let's say that those are dupes. But yeah, Orbit is a lot lighter and more of a true gray compared to how black Double Dare or Eclipse would be. Still really similar though. I also wanted to see this one next to Cirque's Tahitian Pearl from last year's holiday collection. This one is another super dark gray jelly base, and it does have a multichrome shimmer, but it is predominantly purple head on, so it's a little different that way. And I also wanted to see this next to Cirque's Delphinus, which is definitely a much more blue teal base color, but I feel like the shimmer was a little bit more similar, where it's kind of like that orangey red and then shifts to yellow and green in extreme angles. But I was really wrong about that. These look nothing alike on the nail, so here is 2 coats of each. They are super different, definitely not dupes. So for Moondust, I was immediately reminded of Mooncat's The Dark Side because I just thought they had a very similar gunmetal type of color to them. The main difference is Mooncat's is a micro glitter formula, so it's just going to be like more chunky and difficult to remove. But the other difference is when you see them actually swatched on the nail, Mooncat's is more of a darker, almost black kind of jelly base. So slightly different, but kind of the same vibes. So since Moondust was a little bit lighter, I thought it might be worth showing it next to Mooncat's Outlaw Country, which just launched like a week ago. That one is definitely more of a true silver. It does have some gunmetal type of quality to it, but seeing these side by side, they are not nearly as similar as I thought they were going to be, so no dupes. I don't have anything like Shooting Star in my collection, so I figured I can just show it next to a couple of ILNP blues that I have, starting with Elsa from last year's Winter Wonderland collection. That one is an icy blue micro flake / shimmer formula, so very different. But for another magnetic, here it is next to 0 Degrees, which was from that same Winter Wonderland collection. 0 Degrees is definitely one of my favorite shades from ILNP. It is just so pretty. But yeah, these are very different color wise, where 0 Degrees is a little bit more of like a teal, and then Shooting Star has like more of a silvery periwinkle kind of color. So I thought maybe it could be a little similar to Cirque's Cassiopeia from their Heavenly Bodies collection. This is another magnetic shade, but it does have a more purpley berry leaning base color, but I think the shimmer is the thing that's like similar in both of them. So here are all 3 magnetics swatched in 2 coats with the cat eye effect. And yeah, these are definitely not dupes by any means, but again, I will say that the shimmer in Shooting Star and Cassiopeia look virtually the same to me, but obviously very different bases. So I figured I can just show them side by side in 2 coats with no effect. And even though the shimmer is the same, you still see some of that purpley berry base color, so it just looks more purple compared to Shooting Star looking blue. So these are close, but not dupes. Then for dark matter, I was immediately reminded of Mooncat's Apparition, which is another silvery magnetic shimmer in a black base. So I thought these were going to be like really spot on. The main difference being that dark matter shifts to a red multichrome shimmer and Mooncat's is like monochromatic. But when you see them on the nail in direct light, dark matter is more of a true black base and it has a slight bluish kind of shimmer to it. So not dupes, but still really similar. So even though it's not a magnetic, I did want to see how Mooncat's Outlaw Country looked next to dark matter, if that one was just applied as is with no magnetic effect, because they kind of give the same gunmetal-y type of vibes. So here are all 3 shades applied with 2 coats, and they definitely look really similar because they all have a silver kind of shimmer to them, but their base colors are slightly different. So dark matter definitely has the darkest, Outlaw Country has the lightest, but yeah, these are definitely very similar but still not dupes. Then for Comet, I was immediately reminded of Mooncat's Pangea, and these 2 are pretty much the same like on paper because they are these teal jelly bases with this iridescent micro flaky formula. The main difference is that Comet is a bit darker and also has that dainty hollow sparkle, and Mooncat's dries down matte. But other than that, these are very similar. And lastly, for Deep Space, I of course had to see this next to What's Up Nails Polar Light Show, which I just recently reviewed. These are pretty much the same. They have that black base with this greenish aqua to blue to purple magnetic shifting shimmer, and there's also this like hollow sparkle outside of that as well. I will say that I preferred the What's Up Nails formula because it was just a lot more opaque and creamy, while ILNP's was a bit more jelly, but ILNP does have a little bit more of a hollow sparkle. So that wraps up my swatches and comparisons for ILNP's Cosmos collection. So this collection is actually going to be launching on Friday, September 1st. So in a couple of days, make sure you mark your calendars so that way you don't miss these on their pre-order discount. But yeah, you will have to let me know what you guys think of this first fall release from ILNP, because as much as I do think the colors are so gorgeous and it's like a beautiful theme, I am such a sucker for the space galaxy kind of theme, even though it is kind of very overdone from a lot of brands. I still really enjoyed seeing ILNP's take on it. So as much as I enjoy it for those reasons, as you all know, I am a huge seasonal wearer, and especially after last year's fall harvest collection, I was just a little bit let down because to me, this feels like a very winter heavy kind of release between the colors and the finishes. This is something I would have loved to see release alongside all of the typical holiday kind of collections during that time of year. So to get this now when I'm only just now starting and getting into like the cozy fall weather and stuff, I'm just not as excited as I feel like I should be, but I do think they are beautiful shades. I'm just like not ready to wear them yet, if that makes sense. So you'll have to let me know where you land on that kind of spectrum, if you are super excited for these and you're loving that these are just not your typical fall kind of shades, or if you are like me and you were just a little disappointed, even though they are absolutely beautiful. I feel like, you know, sometimes people think just because I say I'm like disappointed in something, it's like I hate the collection or something. And it's like, that's not the case. I think these are stunning. They're just not fall, and I wanted fall. So let me know any and all thoughts that you have down below so we can chat about it. But thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.